is the time for America Decides, and Dr. H.S. Kanku has all the gist. Prof, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So what do we have today?
Good to see you. So I'm just going to take it off.
Right.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to America Decides. Trump's two-time running mate and former Vice President Mike Pence has said that he would not be able to endorse him in the upcoming election. This is big news. This man was beside Donald Trump for his entire term of office as his number two man, his right-hand man. And today, a few years from being the right-hand man to Donald Trump, he says he cannot endorse the same man who he served in the Oval Office. Very big news breaking out there in the US. While acknowledging their differences, Mr. Pence indicated that January 6th was a major point of contention for both of them, Donald Trump and the nation, denouncing Trump for calling convicted January 6th rioters hostages. That was the kind of language he used. Pence has also said that he would not vote for Biden either, so holding out his vote between the two candidates. But that's not the only thing happening on that side of the world. There are a lot of legal issues going on. On the legal front, Trump has said that he has no money or he's not able to post bond for the recent convictions that he's had because no bonding company is willing to serve as a guarantor, well, believe that or not, for the $46 million settlement, including his damages. So the fact of the matter is that as a condition for mounting this appeal, Trump needed to find a bonding company willing to guarantee payment of that lump sum of money to cover the damages should he lose the appeal. So he's still appealing this, but if he loses it, he got to pay that money. Well, so people have been asking a lot, what are the consequences? If Trump is unable to pay for these damages by Monday, March 25th, here's what will happen. The New York State has every right to move in to seize some of his assets in order to defray the debt. This is huge. For somebody who has predicated or premised his entire or a majority of his political capital or reputation on his business acumen, on his money, and on his billionaire status. This is a huge indictment on that particular reputation. And the Democrats are making hay of this. So these are the two things at the forefront. Former Vice President Mike Pence, Donald Trump's own VP, not wanting or not willing to endorse him, and the legal hurdles that Donald Trump himself is facing and the problems he's having in posting that bond. So now that we've caught up with what is happening over there, we'll continue what we started last week, talking about some of the major issues that are dominating the elections or the politics. People have always been concerned or worried about moving beyond the personalities. What are the issues that center in this election? So we'll now turn our attention. Some of those substantive issues are related to the upcoming election. There are issues about race, still, gender, sexism, and quite a number of issues. And we're on the ground. We had some interviews with experts on this subject, and we're bringing you those insights right away. So the first one was a question about, and this is something I've heard a lot from many Ghanaians, about why Donald Trump is so popular despite the many hurdles or challenges that he's supposed to face. So let's listen to the expert interview on Trump's attraction.
People outside America want to understand. Why is it that Donald Trump is continuing to get a lot of traction despite the really degraded language he uses sometimes?
Well, you know, there's scholars written already dozens and dozens of books on this topic, and there are different theories about it. But I think the primary one is that he's capturing an alienation and an anger within the population. And even though you would think as someone who's reportedly wealthy that he would not do well with those who oftentimes struggle financially, but he brings that anger out, and it gives them a space they feel like they are being listened to, and he speaks to their grievances. And when you speak to their grievances, and there's been a lot done on the Trump voter, and before they were Trump voters, they were identified as Tea Party members, and back decades, but many of the historically rooted voters for Trump come from communities who are more rural. They come from communities that were, their generations date back to the enslavement periods, and many have historically felt alienated, and that all the attention was placed on richer people, and then when there's so much attention during the civil rights movement on uplifting African Americans and Black people and Latina people, that they felt left out. And it's like, where's our programs that are going to bolster us? And there have been anti-poverty programs that have been designed to help more impoverished people, but oftentimes there is more attention on the historically marginalized. Some white poor people in the United States have not had as much attention paid to them.
So that was Professor Shawn Perry-Giles. She's at the University of Maryland. But we also spoke to a Harvard professor who added a bit of insight into why this popularity is growing. Donald Trump's popularity explained.
Why is he leading?
So I think there are a couple of factors. Primarily, it's because he has an extremely loyal base of about 30% of the American electorate that is essentially unmovable. That's going to support him no matter what he says or does, or no matter what anybody else says or does. Probably, even if he's convicted of a crime, he'll still support him. No other candidate has that. Certainly not in the Republican primaries. So that alone, if you think about 30% of the public, is over half of the Republican electorate, the Republican primary electorate. So he has a built-in majority of the Republican primary electorate. And, that is really, fundamentally, you could say, the game was over before it started as a consequence. So that's important. When we get to the general election, why he's doing as well as he is, well, I think, there's been a lot of publicity around Joe Biden's age, and I think a lot of voters across parties are concerned about his age. I think some Democrats, especially younger progressive Democrats, are really upset about the Biden administration's policies around the war in Gaza right now. And I think that's reflected in recent polls to some extent. It's really early days in terms of the actual final election, so it's really hard to know whether the polls we're seeing right now will have very much meaning 6-8 months from now, because frankly, most people aren't paying that much attention to the election yet. The early polls tend not to be especially reliable. But in terms of why is Trump doing so well in the Republican primaries, he's basically taken ownership, essentially, of the majority of the Republican primary electorate.
What makes him get that loyal base? What about him brings it up?
So he was able to appeal, starting in 2015, when he came on the scene, to a group of voters who were disaffected with, racially progressive policies, with progressive immigration policies, feeling like, these policies were sort of leaving them behind. Rising income inequality didn't help this. The sort of the loss of industries in places like West Virginia, for instance, as kind of coal shut down and employed fewer people. But the shift to clean energy being perceived as harming disproportionately folks working in the traditional energy industries. So factories shutting down in small towns, rural voters seeing their communities increasingly suffering from opioid addiction, lots of sort of feelings of economic and social struggle and hardship among kind of working class and poor communities, especially white working class and poor communities. Trump was able to tap directly into that resentment of social programs that were perceived, rightly or wrongly, as disproportionately benefiting, and I'll use air quotes for this, those people, the others.
Yeah.
So a good example is the Affordable Care Act.
All right, so that was some explanation regarding why he is still popular despite the many challenges he's facing. But then there are also issues regarding females running for office, sexism, race and gender dynamics related to running for office. And there were some expert voices on female participation in politics.
In the conversation about Nikki Haley and how she's trying to negotiate this particular race. And so I want to find out, do you think female participation, well, we in Ghana see America as a leading democracy, but I know you have your own challenges. And I want to find out, do you think female participation in American politics is problematic? It's a challenge, it's a problem?
You mean women as political leaders?
Yes, women as political leaders.
Yes, absolutely. And we're a country that has never had a woman president, and when Hillary Clinton won, she won the popular vote, but not the electoral college, which really is what matters. And then when that happened, then the response was, okay, we tried to elect a woman, that didn't work, so we want to make sure we nominate someone who will win. And that's how Joe Biden, was able to move up in 2020, even though there were 4 to 5 qualified women who are also running against him. That really didn't get traction.
Yeah.
So we'll delve deeper into some of these issues that are emerging in subsequent editions. Thanks for watching American Decides. My name is Echi Sikanku. Back.